Yes, good day, Grade Cove Geography, Term 3. We are here to discuss and quickly work on the last party, most importantly, the industrial development strategies of South Africa, both post-apartheid and apartheid. We to understand what is apartheid or what were the apartheid development, industrial development strategies, as well as the post-apartheid development strategies as well. So uh, let us quickly just look at them. You can see I have attached some notes here that we are going to use in today's discussion. So basically, let's just quickly work on it without wasting any time. Apartheid development, industrial development strategies. Uh, this is in the context or in South African context. South Africa's apartheid industrial development strategies, such as the border industries and the border growth points, were designed to maintain racial segregation and economic exclusion. There was, or during apartheid, there was a social class or racial separation, blacks and white, on then. So the key features included the import substitution, industrialization, creating special economic zones, also called the border industries near the black homelands, to provide cheap labor and restrict black access to urban jobs. So there were industries which were also called special economic zones, which were developed along uh, the homelands, the black homelands. So these were designed to provide cheap labor and also restrict the movement of people or black people into main urban stream or into main economic activities. So these strategies entrenched capital intensive production. They required much or they needed more capital. They needed more capital investment. They needed more assets, more capital intensive. We talk about assets. We talk about the property. It required money in terms of production. So a lack of skilled labor for majority for the majority of the population also came as a problem there, resulted being a problem, and this resulted in high unemployment and widespread of poverty amongst the black population. So black population could not enter into the mainstream because of limited uh, financial resources in order for them to start their own industries. Also did not have the required skills, skills for them to be employable, and therefore high unemployment resulted, and without employment, poverty flourished. So we want to look at these strategies and discuss them as we go. So basically, the apartheid strategies were done to maintain South Africa as a white republic. So there was a Bantustan policy that actually was put in place to keep blacks in their ethnic homelands, creating something like 10 homelands, around 10 homelands, or also resulting in creation of border industries, which were, I say that they were done or designed to keep black people within their homelands. So let's look into import substitution, industrialization. It was aimed to replace imported goods with locally produced ones. So it actually promoted local industrialization. It actually promoted local industry development. The import substitution industrialization policy strategy. It had to promote local industries, establishment and development of local industries. However, it was largely successful in building capital intensive manufacturing base, but was heavily protected, was not easy to get in, and excluded the black majority. So the import substitution program or policy or strategy, it actually had impact, of course, in initiating local industrial development. And however, it was not inclusive because of the stringent or difficult entry requirements, such as the capital intensive that was needed in terms of the development or in terms of the establishment of the industries. So we also have border industries. We also have the border industries growth points, border industries or growth points, which were also done to protect industrial development along the borders of the black homelands or the Bantustans. So I actually say that the Bantustans were places where black people were to stay or were staying. So white South Africans and foreign investors were offered incentives. White South Africans and foreigners, and I mean, white South Africans and foreign investors were offered incentives such as tax concessions to establish industries in these areas. So tax concessions were practices that were put in place in regard to attract industries within the border or growth point zones. So this was intended to channel black labor from homelands, actually like the people, the black majority who were staying within the homelands were now able to go and seek employment at the growth points or within the border industries of their homelands. So actually, without allowing full integration into the broader economy and workforce without giving full participation of the blacks within the economy and also in terms of workforce, thus maintaining a desired demographic racial order, like to say the boundaries between the blacks and whites remained in place. That's what we mean by maintaining the desired demographic and racial order, like the classes of people according to their various populations characteristics were kept in place within or in regard or during this strategy. Let's look on National Physical Development Plan. The National Physical Development Plan that was 1975 actually was introduced uh, Actually, the plan introduced incentives for locating industries at the growth points, which is similar from what we just said now, similar to the border industries scheme, further directing development away from existing urban centers. So what I'm saying here is that it actually focuses on decentralization of economic activities, which we are saying businesses, industries were promoted to develop in what in rural areas or in at border towns of the black homelands, which actually was a strategy in National Physical Development Plan. Uh, in that regard, we also need to look at what is it? The Good Hope of 1982. This plan focused on basic needs to address poverty, basic needs, basic needs to address poverty. However, its implementation was limited and did not fundamentally alter the racially structured industrial landscape. So the division, the social classes, the social classification remained in place. Social classification remained in place, and therefore we are saying it was limited and did not fundamentally alter, did not change. It did not change the racially structured industrial landscape that the ones who have got the capital, the ones who have got the financial strength, the financial muscles could be able to enter into the industries. So Good Hope Plan was introduced in 1982. It focused on the basic needs philosophy, as in terms of providing the basic needs to the people, the basic needs to the people. So now what we are saying is that it wanted to provide the basic needs such as, one, we talk about food, we talk about clean drinking water, we talk about proper sanitation, the proper sanitation, we talk about housing, is also a basic need. Obviously, we know that housing is a basic need. Housing, we talk about education and health care, as well as employment in order to allow people to be productive and live life with dignity. So living life with dignity, we consider that as what is development. We can consider that as development. So now what we are saying is that the Good Hope uh, plan, it actually focused on the provisioning of basic needs in provisioning of healthcare, proper sanitation, housing, education, employment. In that regard or in that respect, it was also to ensure that people can be able to be productive and also live a life that has got dignity, that has got good standards. You understand? So from 1960s, the strategy did the following intentions. Basically, this is just a summation and an analysis of what we just said already. Provide employment or provide employment in or just outside the borders of the new homelands, which we just talked about, to help the poorest parts of South Africa to develop economically by opening factories in or near the homelands. We actually talked about that factories and industries were to be opened at the borders of these homelands to define a white South Africa is distinct from 10 self-governing homelands. So now the homelands which we said were created could not match the white South African population. So these development plans involve the following initiatives. Uh, we talk about that development points that would develop in such a way that black people would find them attractive as big metropolitan in areas in South Africa. We have identified that regional uh, deconcentration of points areas close to the metropolitan areas towards which future industrial growth could be developed to reduce over concentration. This I have already talked about. That is to say, it was decentralization, or we can say deconcentration of both people and businesses and housing and everything. Metropolitan areas in existing cities, building metropolitan areas in existing cities. Government offered incentives to private enterprises to win their cooperation with these strategies, and the incentives were such as financial help with land and buildings. We talk about rail rebates, which is also an aid that was wage subsidies, to say that people could also get uh, their salaries being being covered, being extended by government. Electricity subsidies, I think even up to now we still have them, where certain places where people are staying do not pay the exact tariff units of buying of electricity. People are buying electricity, but it is a bit cheaper than other areas. Tax rebates, where industries are exempted from paying taxes because of certain uh, operational excellence. So relocation allowances, industries are allowed to are given support if they have to if they are to relocate, and then training grants. We talk about skills development. I'm sure this we can relate it to skills development, skills development plan or skills development act that we even still have up to today. Preference on government tenders, we still have also government tendering, where people are given functions and activities and being paid by the government. You understand? So strategies of this kind were unsuccessful because we had got few mineral resources for them to make money. Agriculture was not that much successful because of maybe factors to do with mechanization as well as labor, abuse of incentives. There was the use of the monies, the misdirection or misuse of finances, education suffered. People we are saying majority of the people were not educated. Majority of the people were not educated, were not, were not educated. So we talk about lack of skills. Education suffered, unskilled labor. We talk about unskilled labor here, which of course was resulting into skills grant that we are talking about. Unskilled labor force, which remains as a stumbling block again if we look into that. And then post-apartheid industrial development strategies, the aim was to address the inequalities, the differences, the inequalities. We are talking about the differences, we are talking about the gaps between the blacks and the whites created by the apartheid industrial development strategies. Through social, that was done through social, through economic and political development, of less developed areas. So we are saying social, the living standards of people were improved, were targeted, were empowered. The economic, we talk about various policies that were put in place. We have the BBEE, broad-based black economic empowerment. We have got the various acts, legislations that were put into place again, the political development as in terms of the formation of various political parties and opposition parties anyway, which also challenged the status quo and came up with some philosophies and policies that tend to be inclusive. Let's look into one of the post-apartheid industrial development strategies, the Reconstruction and Development Program. The aim was to eradicate the effects of apartheid and improve the quality of life of all South Africans by providing people with basic needs. We talked about this: housing, electricity, clean water, health services. So the Reconstruction and Development Program was to identify even these homelands or provide these, identifying these underdeveloped residential places or industrial zones, and then identify them and give them the necessary support, providing social services, providing good water, clean water. We talk about sanitation. All these were put in place in order to uplift the standards of living. It actually focused on standards of living of the black majority. If you can look at this, it focused on improvement of standards of living of black majority because basic needs were actually ensured to be in place. Basic needs were ensured to be in place in that case. And then actually it also focused on development of infrastructure. The Reconstruction and Development Program also facilitated infrastructural development. For example, we talk about housing. 400,000 houses were provided and improved water supply in rural areas. We are saying water supply we don't have, or we have got many places which are having. We talk about the rural electrification program. It's a technical, quite good example. Rural electrification program is quite a good example in this regard. The rural, we talk about the rural electrification program, even the public works programs, which was also focusing on development and in creation of employment. So about 400,000 houses were provided. We talk about the water supply. We talk about sanitation. Toilets were built in various residential places, which all these are basic needs that we're talking about in regards to uh, reconstruction and development program. However, it had challenges, e.g., many contractors had built poor quality houses. And when we are assessing it, we can also talk about the extent of success. It did not it didn't bring comprehensive success because other contractors ended up providing poor quality houses and did not train people under the housing program. People who were also building were people who were employed around the various residential places who may also not have the skills or who were not also trained. And that was also a challenge that we can put in. Growth, employment, and redistribution, the gear growth, employment, and redistribution is a strategy adopted by Department of Finance in June 1996 as a 5-year plan. I'm sure we have heard of this one, the development plan or a redistribution plan. So it aimed at strengthening economic development, creating sufficient employment, and redistribution of income and socio-economic opportunities in favor of the poor, in favor of the poor. That is quite a good example. We are saying, for example, socio-economic, we talk about the directive financial transfers, directive financial transfers, which our people are receiving from the government. We talk about the social grants, are government initiatives where every person, almost employed and unemployed, is receiving some money at the end of the month. That actually gives a dignity in regard to the survival and living of people. So we are talking about redistribution. We talk about taxing, the taxing system. Also, it is a redistribution program. We talk about the taxing system itself. The taxing system, it actually focuses on uh, pay as you earn. Those with more resources are taxed more than the others who have less. So we are talking about example, the taxing system. It is actually a redistribution of income process or a redistribution of it is a redistribution strategy. And then the poor also, we are talking about new jobs. 8,300 in water supply program were created. However, we talk about the slow growth of economy limited the success of gear, the slow growth of the economy limited the gear, socio-economic, contained with the interaction of social and economic factors, e.g., occupation, education, income, wealth, where someone lives. So it had to do with the socio-economic concerns to say it was not given to everyone. People were given according to their social ability, their education, their income, their their wealth, which we can actually agree and also want to say that it is a redistribution plan or it was a redistribution strategy. So we want to quickly just look at industrial development zone as also the latest one, the industrial development zone where we talk about the South Bay, which aimed to encourage manufacturing in areas and use of resources in those areas to produce. We are saying encouragement of manufacturing in areas and use of resources in those areas to produce goods instead of importing them. The beneficiation process or the beneficiation strategy, what the industrial development initiative actually aimed at improving local industrial base, ensuring that in certain underdeveloped places or zones are given the capacity to produce and manufacture in order to supply within those areas. So they are generally located around transport routes. They were actually, transport located around transport routes and that have international links, e.g., we talk about the harbor in order to promote exports. So this has to do with what? With the generation of wealth, generation of wealth, generation of wealth through generation of wealth through export promotion, exportation. So exportation will provide the much needed foreign currency that actually is needed in terms of our businesses, in terms of our economy. So the industrial development zones are actually purpose-built industrial estates, linked to international ports. They are linked to international ports, to airports, which have been specifically designated for new investment by export-oriented industries and related services. Export-oriented, producing, we are talking about production uh, for international trade, international production for international trade. That is quite a good initiative. The purpose-built industrial estates that are linked to international airports and international ports and airports, which are actually are designed for initiative of new investment, focusing on export development or export business. So and other industry and other related services. So it aims to encourage manufacturing. It aims to encourage manufacturing and use of resources in those areas to produce goods instead of importing them, which we say that is beneficiation. So now they are generally located around transport routes that have international links, harbors in order to promote exports, the IDZ. And then we have got an example of the South Bay municipality. Yes, actually, as a typical example, resolved to stimulate sustainable local economic development and employment opportunities within the municipal area. One option is to align the South African Industrial Development Zone program, which is part of international government strategy to position the country within the global economy. We are talking about what? Globalization. Because of we are talking about international routes, international harbors, airports, globalization. We talk about what? E-business. We talk about globalization. We talk about international trade, like we just talked about now. International trade. So therefore, the aim is to encourage international competitiveness of South Africa, and sustainable economic growth through strategic investments in export manufacturing industries in the we can say South Bay municipal area. So the South Bay municipality integrated development plan sets out targets for a variety of actions covering education, social welfare, housing, sanitation, economic development, and other services. As we can look at these are also very essential and fundamental development functions that a state has to take into account. So, classy, I'm sure we can actually agree that IDZ is also a latest post-industrial development or a post-apartheid development plan. So it seeks to integrate and balance the economic, ecological, and social pillars of sustainability within the municipality area in such a way to promote the involvement of government, the community, and local leadership to enhance infrastructure and socio-economic development within the municipal area. So I can actually we can really make sense, integrate, uh, balance the economic, ecological. We are talking about environmental sustainability, environmental environmental sustainability in that regard. Social pillars within the municipal area promote the involvement of government participation. Obviously, we're talking about the government control being very important, and also the leadership in terms of infrastructure and socio-economic achievements. So thank you very much, class, for your time and all the best. Just look forward. We are going to look in the next video. We are going to talk about the differences between, look forward on the difference between special development initiatives and industrial development zones. We are going to look at the between differences between the two, SDI and IDZ. Please look forward to that. It's just going to be within the next video, and you know very well that it is part and parcel of your syllabus. Please just keep posted and continuously checking. Turn on your notification button, so therefore you are connected forever. Thank you very much once again, and keep subscribing and sharing so that we can grow as a community. Thank you very much.